Greetings, felicitations and similar noises. Alan Robson with you. Welcome to another visit to a spectacular place. I mean, a place with thousands of quirky, little, interesting, fascinating bits to it. Getting strange bird noises that I've never heard anywhere else. It is quite bizarre so far. We're on a track that's known for a murder way back in the past, in the 1700s along here. This is Seaton Burn, the Seaton Burn that goes all the way out to the sea. If you look across at the top end, Paul, if you can light it up, you can see where the water will literally take you up through modern day sluices, but the real sluice we shall see, for we are in Seaton Sluice. Now, this whole area, when the tide's in, when the water is on the ground, as you can see, it's mainly mud and a tyre off a Ford Capri. That's what's that's what's down here, and the body that was missing in this part of the world was said to be placed in here somewhere. So maybe somewhere along here there's a skeletal hand reaching out. But back in the day, this whole place used to be salt pans. This place didn't even used to be called Seaton Sluice. It used to be called Hartley Pans, because they had massive salt panning here. And for those of you that don't know what that is, because it's a bit of a thing, salt was incredibly valuable. Back in Roman times, right here on the same ground, Roman soldiers were paid in salt. It's where we get certain phrases from, like, he's not worth his salt, or the word salary comes from saline, because salt was more valuable than money, and you'd get paid in salt. So therefore, salt, a valuable commodity. And what they used to do along here is use the river to feed the sluices, to take the water from the sea, dry it out, collect the salt, and sell it by the bushel all over the country, taking it up to Scotland, taking it down to Newcastle, and you could make a good batch of money from salt, which means some people smuggled it, some people killed for it, and an awful lot of people stole it. I've got a few stories later on that are actually quite funny. But let's go down here. And again, if I can just pinch my torch back, we have with us, of course, behind the camera, we have Hollywood McShane, and we also have Bushy Beard with us. Paul is with us too. So let's head in this direction. Now, as you can tell, the nights are closing in. Next week, we've got an inside job that we're looking forward to do. But along here, tracks used by the panners, the salt panners back in the day. Queen Elizabeth I was known to say that the salt gathered from Hartley salt was the finest salt in the land, and when she was having a venison or a beef, the choice was she would have Hartley salt on it. There's also a book written around the day. I've got the quotation, and it's an interesting one. And it's Dr. William Bullen said, Hartley salt is esteemed by such to be better than any other white salt. Now, along here, along the banks of the river, kind of there, on the opposite side of the river here, it was said that for a while they had hoppers, the collection hoppers for the salt. And there's a ghost story attached to that whole thing. And it said that Sir John Delaval took over the land, and from the year 1200 they were collecting salt here. 1200s, I mean, it's unbelievable, you know, how far back this whole thing went. And the story goes that 3 young children, brothers, were working for the salt panners, and it meant that they had to essentially make room inside the hoppers for more salt coming in. Make some room, let more salt come in, until the entire hopper was filled with salt. Now, the tale from ye olde folklore says that these three kids went into the hopper one night. Now, the hoppers at the time were all but full, and the people in charge didn't want anybody to get into the hoppers to steal it. So what they ended up doing was they put massive locks, massive padlocks and chains around the hoppers to stop people getting in and half-inching, stealing the salt. And they'd closed the door on this hopper with the three children inside. Now, I don't know whether you can imagine for a second what it would be like to be in there with no water, no food, no light, an inability to get out, and you're surrounded with salt. And the salt would dehydrate your skin, and it would literally turn your skin in on itself. And then you would suffer a whole range of things, from fever to delirium, apparently. And then you'd die in a saline version of toxic shock. Now, apparently when they opened up the hopper and they were shoveling all of the salt out to be sent all over the place, I mean literally all over the country, they came across the three wizened, twisted, mummified bodies almost. Now, it could have been very easy for them to say, this is a terrible tragedy, where's their parents? But instead, when the mother came looking for her sons, who were making literally coppers, because they weren't official workers for the salt panning company, they're just a few local kids that they got to do as much work as they could for as little as they could possibly pay them. So they decided to do what a lot of people did with child workers back in the day. They didn't care, and they literally buried them along the banks of the Seaton Burn. And it's believed that somewhere, they're actually along here. Now, people have said, now, when you get a really good ghost story, sometimes you have it forever, for all time. This particular ghost story lasted for about 100 years, and I could find no mention of it after about 1830. So in the 1700s, when they died, people would see the three boys running around, the shadows of them, along this side of the riverbank. And again, who knows? You see, when I see, you got to remember, this trail wouldn't have been like concreted back then. And I'm fairly sure that a lot of this on this side of the river would be tree line and bushes and kind of raggedy. And if they were going to bury bodies anywhere, you'd think it's probably going to be under our feet. Every pothole, you see, you've got things here for even just along here. This is just shows you how this river is still used to this day. I know we've seen the odd boat, as you can see, just along here. But if you look down there, Tony, a post and a rope to tie a boat to along here. Just makes you, you know, it's how amazing would it be if you look down a hole like this, at the hole that's at my feet, whether or not you'd find just the edge of a skull sticking through, because the boys' bodies were never found. And I think sometimes when people say, well, why do people, you know, haunt a place? Sometimes it's because it's almost like that place is stained because they were never given any care. They were never given any attention. They were never given a place to rest. And I kind of get that. This whole place along here, we were told that the panning hoppers, they were in various places. They stored them literally where they could. And some of them were in the backs of carts, you know, like big circular carts filled with salt, to move them from place to place. But the hoppers, some people could say they were on this opposite bank. I'm not sure just how feasible that would be, to be honest, but that's where I've been told they were. And apparently there was something like 26 hoppers and 8 massive pans. So,
hoppers be?
well, if you can lose 3 children in them, they're going to be a decent. They're going to have to be.
Yeah, trying to imagine looking over there how big they would actually be.
Yeah, but they could be on the top, maybe.
Ah, yes.
You know, not necessarily down by the riverbank. This whole place is amazing. I'm going to ask you to do double business on the torch for Tony, because we're going to head kind of back this way, because I've got something to show you that is absolutely amazing, and just light the way so that everybody can see. So Sir John Delaval, the owner of the pans, hushing up. No, Tony, we're heading back. We're heading back this way. I've got something that we didn't see last time we were here that is a really must-see. Apparently when the 3 young boys' families were told that they weren't at the salt panning works, the boss at the time didn't say they'd died. They said, oh, they've run away. We were expecting them in this morning, but they didn't show up. And what can you do about that? Looking off to your right-hand side to the river, the boats there, small boats, they robbed some of the hoppers. Some housewives stole in total 1/2 stone of salt in their pinnies. And it made them enough money to feed their families for a month. The smuggling took off when taxes were brought in, stopping it going over the Scottish borders. Customs officers based here and also based up at Flodden stopped allowing it over the borders. So fascinating and strange. But I don't know, how many of you actually know what a pinny is? Because I noticed I mentioned when we were advertising that we're going to be working live tonight, I mentioned the word ket, and loads of people were saying, what's that mean? And it means nibbles, goodies, sweets, treats, crisps, pop, that kind of stuff. Pinnies. Back in the day, even my mum used to wear kind of an apron, and it was an apron that had a big pocket in the front. And these women from Seaton Sluice, while the pans or the pan hoppers were being filled with salt, would come around and one of them would start flirting with the guy who's filling the hopper, or the supervisor in charge, and they'd sneak and they'd go into the hopper and they'd just fill their pinnies full of salt, and then maybe that's the reason why a lot of the women of the day, you know, had a chest out here and a backside out there and used to walk, because their pinnies were full of salt. But think about this. Imagine it back in the day, £3 to get you through a whole week for food. Doesn't sound much, but back then £3 was probably 50, 60, 70 quid. They could feed their family for a month just from the amount of salt you could put in the pocket of a pinny. I think that's just, it's totally us, but it's amazing. Anyway, let's head up. We're going up. I'm taking you to a World War site that an awful lot of people have no idea that it's here. So, and you can see the boats at the side there. Now these boats, I'm sure, are completely kosher and legal and lawful. Smuggling gin is what Seaton Sluice was known for. There was a poorhouse just along the end, near where there's a pub that we're coming to on the headland just to the right, and there was a poorhouse very close to where the pub stands, and it was said to house vagrants, thieves and rebels. The constable of the village was in charge, and Thomas Taylor, who was Seaton Sluice's miller, was hired as the overseer of the poor. Now, what you have to realise is that anybody that didn't have a job, and I know that anybody that didn't have a job, who couldn't afford to pay their rent, had to go into a poor house. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's great. You don't have to think. They'll just tell you what to do. And they did. And the women on one side, the men on the other, had to work from early morning right the way through till the night time. And many people hated it. And a lot of the men running it, because there was always men running it, would abuse the women. Some of the men who were poor would abuse the women. It was a hellish time for everybody. Nobody really wanted to be in a poor house, not at all. And the poor house apparently was kind of here. I know they've got some modern day houses up the top here, and kind of in that direction was the poor house, housing 83 souls at the very last count. I've had a look at lists of some of the names, and one of them that stayed in the poorhouse became the best known, most infamous smuggler in Seaton Sluice. So we'll tell you her story a little bit later, the story of a woman called Widow Todd. But before we get across to our World War II thing, there's a lovely little bar that if you've ever come down here on a nice sunny day, I know it's pitch black now, the Melton Constable is literally just at the top of the bank, and we'll be able to see it very, very soon. The Melton Constable. It's just on this side. Or have we come up the wrong way? It's on the right. I beg your pardon. So there it is. We're heading around. This is Beresford Road. It's one of the main roads round. Yeah, we came up a slightly different way, didn't we? So there it is, the Melton Constable. So the poor house, quite close. Melton Constable's here. And across the road from the Melton Constable, you said I would fall over Seaton Sluice. I've fallen over Melton Constable instead. But that is the Melton Constable. So light it up for Tony. It's a bonny looking bar, and there's stories in all directions here. So the Melton, you might have heard of Melton Constable. It's a place in Norfolk, and it was once owned by Norfolk folk, the Astleys. The original town features in the Domesday Book, and the Astleys inherited all of the Delaval estates. Mentioned John Delaval before. This was a hotel in 1839. In the late 1800s, it was troubled by the ghost of the original landlord, James Thompson. In 1871, Whitaker's Almanac wrote this: "The Melton Constable Inn is too terrifying for honest families. Its ghost, an objectionable cur known as Thompson, preys on women and children. Each evening at dusk their screams roar across Holywell Dean out into the bay." So how about that? Let me pinch my torch just a second, and we need double bubbles. There it is. There's the Melton Constable. They've got a picture image of a train on the notice board. And you can see even the shape and the size and the style. That looks like it could be a haunted bar. And it seems that this guy, Thompson, the landlord of the place, completely took advantage of his female staff. He was married, didn't let him get in the way of dabbling with some of the ladies concerned. And we've got to look for a little cross path, because we're heading literally over here. I think that's there was once a little path along it, or is that it there? No? There used to be, because there's a pillbox, actually a full-size pillbox, over the hill here on the opposite side. So let's get across. I think it's kind of here. Yeah, I think it's, you'll see it, it's over here somewhere. There's two of them in this vicinity and we've got to try and find them, but they're up here somewhere. Over the dunes. The thing is, at this time of year with the grass growing, there was like a little path up, and I thought, oh well, you just follow the path up. It was across there, and if you crossed the road, it took you straight to the pillbox. But I'm guessing it's up here somewhere. And there's a couple of ghost stories attached to the two pillboxes. Do you think that's it?
That kind of looks pillbox shaped, doesn't it?
Go and give it a little gansy, and give us a shout if it's the boy. Thanks, Paul. It's just handy having an extra pair of eyes for these things. And if any of you guys know, of course, you can send a message to Tony. Where that pillbox at? Whoa, you boots. I'm guessing it's of a size and shape that when you see it on, that looks, could that be a Tony? Well, there are two pillboxes overlooking this amazing coastline that probably just looks black to you guys. It did. It's almost like somebody threw a black velvet cloth across Seaton Sluice. Could that be it?
What's it actually look like?
It's a big circular pillbox.
Well, it doesn't look circular.
Well, yeah, from Google Earth, it just looks flat. So there's a couple here. And there's tracks in all directions, so let's grab one and try and not get too nettled, because we nearly always do. It's just, I did my bearings from the Melton Constable. So where's that? That is there. So it's around here somewhere, I think.
Just among the grass.
Let's have a look. I tell you, you go first, because obviously, oh, right in the brambles, Al. Hoorah. Ouch. Yeah, these brambles just pull your legs away from beneath you. There's a few pillboxes from World War II when this Northumberland beach had been mentioned as the perfect place for the Nazis to invade. And right away along here there were machine gun nests, tank traps, barbed wire, mines. This first one is on a piece of ground known as Sandy's Island. And there's another one that's hidden, haunted by somebody that's very famous in this part of the world. George Hunter, a man blown up while charging an enemy trench, part of the new army set up in Newcastle for the Infenham Barracks for Northumberland Fusiliers. A miner before the war from Seaton Sluice. He survived scabies, a gunshot to the chest, fighting on the Somme for years. Then at Arras, he got shrapnel in his left ankle. He suffered sepsis due to a filthy wound. Discharged, sent back to the coal mines at Netherton Colliery. He married Margaret Molly McGlenn after the war, owned a shop in Bedlington. But according to his old school friend, Walter Dixon, they used to play on these dunes together. And they had an old cave in the hillside that they used to... There it is. How about that? Amazing, isn't it? Whoa, something just floating towards my mouth. How about this? Just give him the signal that we're here. He's coming. Look at this. Now, oh, nearly. Imagine this with the full top on it, with the machine gun opening, scanning the beach, getting ready, just in case there was a Nazi invasion. And back in the day, they were absolutely expecting the invasion to happen. Back then, it wasn't an occasion of will it happen, it's when is it going to happen. And I mean, people really did get the bejeebus frightened out of them. Imagine there's a lovely beach here. It's Seaton Sluice. If you've not been down to Seaton Sluice, it's lovely. And if you go further up to the properties a little bit further along, there's a lovely bar there called the Astley Arms, overlooking the dunes. Hey, oh!
That was a bush dressed up as a pillbox.
Was it? All right. Sorry to send you on a wild goose chase. So grab a bit of rest. So the this pillbox used to be that soldier's best friend's hidey hole. Sometimes in places like this, back in the day, and we're talking a lot of years ago now, we're talking about 70, 80 years before the war, this guy, George, and his mates used to come out to these dunes, and there was a cave in one part of the hillside here, roughly where this is. And it's probably the reason why they built the pillbox here, because a lot of the foundations had already been dug, if you know what I mean. And it's right on top of the hill, and a lot of this, the height of this wasn't here. I mean, you could see the whole beach from it. This is built up over the years. So you've got this pillbox, massive pillbox, people with machine guns watching out to the sea. And after the war, what they ended up doing was this friend of George, school friend, came back just so that he could have a memory or two of the great times. That don't go over the edge, this is quite steep. Let's light up as much as we can. There's the beach and the sea, the breakers in the distance. Not even sure whether you'll even be able to see that because the tide's out at the moment. But you can imagine these whole, you know, all of the little tracks and trails down along the dunes. You can imagine a couple of kids, maybe he's playing war, because after the First World War, kids playing with the new sound effects with the new Thompson submachine gun, where there was 1,000 versions. All of that going on. But this pillbox, and it actually looks exactly like the base would have looked at the time, because that is obviously the real base. And this guy came back after the war to try and meet his friend. Now, the story goes that the friend passed away, and George came out here with his family to remember his childhood, and this is where we used to hang out, and saw his best mate in his military uniform. He was also a Northumberland Fusilier, and he was standing in his full uniform at the side of this pillbox, and he tried to communicate with him and said, "Oh, there you are," and the figure just disappeared. But there's the Melton Constable behind it, there's the bar, there's the pillbox. We found it, and there's another one a little bit further along that is actually hidden under the bridge. So go back down on the path, Tony, and we shall be doing the following. And I'll leave you both of these to use to make sure that you get a really good bright covering. Off you go, guys. Yeah, I know it's a bit slippy slidey, as Paul Simon once had a hit. Slip sliding away. Whoops, you bugs. Oh, this is the one where you build up speed and then you can't stop at the bottom. Yep. We're good. We're good. Now, I mentioned before that one of this village's most infamous smugglers was a woman who ran her gang literally from the poorhouse, and they would borrow, just for the night, local boats, and they would row out to sea, and they would pick up Dutch gin from some of the ships offshore. And this woman was always in the boat herself, because she didn't trust any of the men working for her, because they were all vandals and rogues who lived in the poorhouse. They were willing to do absolutely anything they could to make some money. So this widow Todd her name was, she would come down to the boats that you'll be able to see very, very soon. Hello. Yes, you've got a bloody horn, I can tell. So anyway, you'll see all of the boats very, very soon. Well, what Widow Todd used to do, when the boats had been finished for the day, the fishermen had been out, their boats, most of them were rowing boats back then, not so much sailing boats or skiffs. There's even one there, I've just noticed. Isn't that a boat there? Yeah, there you go, they put some flowers in them. But down in the bay, which is just down here, they had a ton of boats. So Widow Todd would send her men to go and grab a boat. They'd literally row out of the end of the Seaton Burn into the sea, and they'd go and collect their Dutch gin and their Dutch lace. Light some of that up if you would. There should be boats down there somehow. Somewhere, there they are. And they'd just pick one. Pick a boat, sail it out, collect the gin, bring the boat back, put it exactly where it was before she pinched it, and she had no costs, no bills, nothing at all. Widow Todd. And she got away with this for years, and she had no bills. She was living in a workhouse, paying the boss of the workhouse to give him a backhander so that he didn't make her have to work. I mean, it was, I think, an amazing little way of getting things done. So this is the playground of Widow Todd. Now, beyond that, Widow Todd was said to have 4 husbands. She's not trying. I've had 5 wives. Anyway, that's nothing to be proud of, trust me. But Widow Todd had 4 husbands, and they all died mysteriously. Now, a lot of people said Widow Todd was known as Widow Todd because her husbands lasted about a month. Then suddenly they weren't on the picture anymore, and the word poison was mentioned numerous times, but nobody ever prosecuted her, not for smuggling, not for murder of her husbands. She seemed to just absolutely get away with it. There you go, we're on Seaton Sluice Bridge. Look at this. Oh, that's quite spooky. Look at that. That needs lighting up as well, Paul, if you may. Just down here. Look at that. Wild. Now, just up the road from here, what direction is Seaton Delaval Hall? It's that way.
That way.
That way. Now, if you get to the end of that road and you go up, right the way up, you come to the magnificence that is Seaton Delaval Hall. And again, a lot of the Delavals lived there. It's got about 3 separate stories. One claims that there's a vortex on the main drive towards Seaton Delaval Hall, where on occasions this portal opens up and you look up, and I've spoken to somebody on the radio who claims that they've clearly seen this. They parked in the driveway, the gates closed, and they looked up and they saw people with top hats and carriages, and they thought, oh, they must be filming some kind of upstairs, downstairsy kind of program. And they weren't. And he tried to take a photograph of it, and when he got the photograph home, you could see the hole in the background, and right in the middle there's this circular, swirling kind of fog. So they actually got a photo of a portal, which I think that's rare. So that's one story. There's also the very famous story of, I don't know whether you heard, the White Lady of Seaton Delaval Hall. It's one of those standard stories where a young girl wants to marry the aristocrat, young Lord Delaval, and Lord Delaval is sent away by his parents because his parents don't want them to marry a commoner. So she ends up fretting, and nobody knows how she died, but she died, and it's said of a broken heart. Of course it would be. And the other story is very cool. On the Blah, this extra little show that we do every week on a Tuesday, we try and I know you're a big fan of Geordieisms and where some of the words that we use all the time are used. Yes. Well, back to Seaton Delaval Hall, Sir Jack Delaval used to be a bit of a player. He had women literally everywhere, and he fell in love with a buxom landlady who ran one of the bars up here. Now, I'm beginning to think it was the original bar that was here. Do you want to light that one up for everybody just so they can see? Are you getting a decent picture of that, Joe? Yeah, you can see it. You can see it, that's cool. We believe there was an original inn there. Now, if this is the case, Sir Jack Delaval trying to romance this woman, but the girl wasn't having it. She actually had a fiancé at the time who was a roughy-tufty fisherman from the port of Seaton Sluice. She wanted nothing to do with this arrogant, swaggering, money-rich waster who, because Sir Jack Delaval travelled the world and he was just a waste of skin, you could say. She wanted nothing to do with him. And the reason I love this story is it's not just because a lot of people have heard it, but they're so sure that it was true that they put it on their own website. Now, usually when somebody disparages somebody, you leave that off, you know, a little bit of spin. The Bible's full of spin. Books of the day hid anything that they didn't want anybody to know about. And Sir Jack Delaval tried his best to literally touch up, grab and feel this big, buxom, strapping, chesty barmaid. And the story goes that she said, "I'm not interested in your attentions." And he said, "Do you know who I am?" And I hate that. "Do you know who I am? You're going to enjoy my attentions." Honk, honk. And she kicked him in the balls. I mean, on the website it says, kicked him in the groin. But she just, poof, and stormed off. And while she was leaving, told him what she would do to him if ever he tried to touch her again. Now, people didn't do that with the rich folks back in the day. Nobody did that. So, anyway, brilliant story. And the ghost of Sir Jack is said to walk Seaton Delaval Hall. But you know, I was mentioning something about a phrase that we use. The reason that anybody uses the phrase "a bit of a Jack the Lad" is because of Sir Jack Delaval.
Is that right?
Jack the Lad. Because he was a Jack the Lad. He went around just looking for people to sleep with, trying to have an adventure here, an adventure there, all paid for by daddy's money. Hate that kind of thing, but it goes on. Anyway, we're at our next little place here, just across the road. Don't know whether you can see it. And there it is, named after Susanna, the Marchioness of Waterford. We've already seen the boatyards where Widow Todd managed to use the boatyard like it was a car rental service. But light up the top of that, please, if you can, Paul. I think it should say 1899.
Is that Tony?
You got it? Oh, it does, absolutely. The Waterford Arms, named in honour of Susanna. she inherited a lot of the land here and created bottle plants, factories. She built schools for Catholics and Protestants. Now, you never mixed those two things back in the day, but she gave it a try until they started literally fighting one another. And there is apparently a haunting here too, Tony, if you want to go and check out where it is. It's around the alley at the side here, at the side of the Waterford. Now, this is a story from Victorian times. It was about 1888, and it was said along the alley at the side of the Waterford. Now, I know that like the modern houses and the old fence wouldn't be there, but that building certainly was. We've got stories about that soon too, the Tower House. And but along here, apparently, a wealthy man was enjoying drinks with his hunting friends, because hunting was a big deal back then, and they were in the bar here. And I noticed you can actually see clean into the bar. There's nobody there, Tony, if you want to film it. He was in the bar on this side, and his horse and carriage was outside. And there was a little bit of, how would you put it? Hooliganism, vandalism going on. You know when you park your car outside and you see some kids messing with a wing mirror or something, and you go, oh, you little bugger, and you come running out. Well, that was the equivalent of what he did. He had some of his men there, and inside the carriage at the time, or should I say, at the back of the carriage, he had two men. And there was a couple of young ragamuffins pulling and tugging and, you know, messing on with a horse and messing on with the wheels and trying to look inside the carriage door, and the men on the back saying, get away, head away, get away, because they would, because they talk like us, because they're just proper common people. And out of the window, the aristocrat, the rich man, the hunter, came running out, and just at that moment, a man came down who lived somewhere in Seaton Sluice, I know not where, but it was one of his kids. And the Lord came up and gave him a scalp across the head. Well, this guy's saying, hey man, what the hell are you doing? That's my Ben. And a fight ensued, and it was said that the two men jumped off the back of the carriage and kicked him to death here, where the carriage was parked. And ever since then, from time to time, even on CCTV, we're told, and I don't know where CCTV is, but there is some around here apparently. It might be a house, but they say they've seen shadowy figures coming down this alley. And they believe it. The only story that they've heard, and it's folklore very much, the only story they heard about the Waterford was the story of the rich man who beat a bloke to death because he was trying to protect his child, essentially, from being scalped. That's a word I'll have to look up for our next blast. Where did that come from? We're going down here, which is a glorious little cubby hole. And if you look just inside that hut on the corner there, you'll see how proud they are of Seaton Sluice. I love that. Now keep going. There's a little black thing on the wall that I'm a bit of a fan of. Light that up. You see it? And there's the image of Seaton Sluice Harbour on the back of it, which is just lovely. Now, oh, hang on, before we go to, we've got to light, I beg your pardon, we should also do the tower, which is kind of famous as well. This building over here looks like a castle. And a lot of people, when they come here, they say, oh, what's that castle in Seaton Sluice? It's not a castle. It's now the Tower House Gallery. But this thing was built in 1720. And it's also the place where a group of admirals and generals met together during the Napoleonic War. They all sat in the big table in the main room, or you go up the steps and through the door. Oh, you should maybe go and have a look. I think it would be lovely if we could catch the image of one of the people that was in there. The Duke of Wellington came here. Imagine, it's for sale. Oh, wow. Imagine living in this place, like a castle. Look at the top of it, Tony, with the battlements of it. How wild is that?
It reminds me of a Peel Tower, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. It's gorgeous. But no, the Duke of Wellington came here with a load of generals and admirals. This has also been used as a revenue office, customs and excise, where the tallymen would be based. It's also known as Copperas House, and named after some of the various substances dug out of the ground nearby. It was the harbour master's house, and it was said that when this place stopped being the harbour master's house, people kept seeing the harbour master with his telescope on top of the battlement, looking out to sea. And wonder, is he there now? Light him up. I would love to see him.
You there, sir?
Come on,
Go on out.
come out and see us. We're not messing.
I think that sign's original there, Alan.
Tower House 1720, I don't think so, but there's apparently a plaque on here somewhere as well that you can read, but I haven't come across it yet. There's a plaque somewhere that helps explain. Look at this. Please take a leaflet. And it's empty, and the spiders have got it now. Lovely. Anyway, we're heading down there, mate, so off you go, too. Let's... you can help yourself to the... Oh, the leaflets are there.
No, there's some apples there. It says help yourself.
Oh, is that nice?
Look.
Have you seen this, too?
Look.
Oh, that is sweet. There's a big bowl of apples. You can come and help yourself. Somebody's obviously got an apple tree in their garden. And
Can't get a leaflet, but you can get an apple.
I shall take an apple to remember you by. And it's probably sour as hell, but it doesn't matter because somebody was kind enough to offer one. That is very, very sweet. Very sweet. You know those apples when you get them, because we used to scrump them, I don't know about you, Paul, you know, you pinch them off somebody's got a garden with an apple tree in and you climb over the wall and you
Still do.
You still... It is kind of, isn't it? Up here. We didn't want a vicar along Elsick used to have a couple of apple trees and a plum tree, and we used to climb over his wall and he would always come out shouting and swearing. And you think, well, vicars shouldn't do that, but the amount of apples we took, I can't really blame him to any large extent.
Is that talking to you?
It's supposed to be.
At one time when we were here, I think the very first time we came, it would say things like, Bargard 1927, ship sank off the coast. And that's what it's supposed to be doing. No, it's not going to... No. I love the fact that it's there, though. You know, it's just really good. And also, they keep their toilets open late at night. Come on. How many people do that these days? Now, I was going to say that down here, down and along and looking down, is the best view during the day of Widow Todd's choice of boats, because all she needed was one, and there'd be like 100 back in the day when it was far more fishy than it is today. And all of these, any of the boats would do for her, if you think about it. And she'd just go out, like half a mile offshore, grab all of the gin and what have you, and bring it back and sell it. You see, that story's still getting, it might be about Widow Todd. You got absolutely no idea what it could be about. But anyway, let's rock down here, Tony. We've got some...
Probably good to
Split the screen. Oh my goodness. We got so much to tell you about. And one of the best stories is yet to come about the Hartley hero. Now, I hadn't heard this story, and the last time we came to Seaton Sluice, I had no idea of it. And because we've come back to a place, I've tried to find, yes, there's certain stories that you've got to retell, but I've tried to come up with other stories, because every place, there's like 2,000 years, 3,000 years of history here. It's very easy to find other stories. We've got an awful lot more coming your way. Tony, if people would like to join us, what do they have to do?
Just hit the link in the video description and join on YouTube. There's a little button under the video, or follow the link and everything's there. Easy.
We would love you to join us, and then the second half will be yours. And it's about £3 odd a week, not a week, a month. £3 odd a month, and you less than £1 a week. And you can join us and all of our various adventures. Next week we are indoors in a very spooky place, so get ready for that. Anyway, if we spin around, we're heading towards something that is absolutely incredibly famous. What's that lit up down there, Tony?
Boat, it's just lit up.
The boat's just lit up. I don't know.
I think it's something.
Without lighting it up, let Tony just see it in the blank, because whatever light you can see there right in the middle, yeah, you've got it. Now light it up if you can. Do you think it's the descendants of Widow Todd having a borrow of another boat?